The storm was roaring across the African plains when a ranger heard it, a cry so deep it froze his heart. A young elephant, chained and sinking in mud, surrounded by armed poachers. With lightning flashing above, one decision would mean life, death, or extinction itself. The night still clung to the plains like smoke when the first rumble of thunder rolled over the African savanna. Every blade of grass shimmered with dew, waiting for the sunrise, or the storm, whichever came first. From the watchtower of Maku Ranger Outpost, the land stretched endlessly, a patchwork of acacia trees, dry riverbeds, and shadowed ridges where lions often roamed. But tonight, even the lions were silent. Inside the tower, Ranger Eli Ndlovu adjusted his binoculars and listened. The radio on his desk hissed softly, picking up the static of a storm still miles away. The scent of rain mixed with dust drifted in through the open window. Eli had been doing this job for 10 years, long enough to know that the wild always spoke before it screamed. He poured a cup of coffee, dark as the clouds on the horizon, and muttered to himself, "Something's coming." Below the tower, two rangers, Moses and Ion, were checking the patrol truck, tightening fuel caps, loading tranquilizer rifles, and wrapping radio cables in plastic sheaths. They moved with quiet precision, the kind that comes from years of working where one mistake could cost lives, human or animal. The camp lights flickered as thunder cracked again. "Storm's early," Moses said, glancing up. "Or trouble's closer," Ion replied. Across the valley, the wild was waking. Baboons barked warnings in the trees. Birds exploded from the tall grass. And far beyond the northern ridge, faint, almost too faint to believe, came a sound that didn't belong to thunder. It was low, trembling, a sound of weight and pain. Eli froze, his hands stilled on the radio dial. He turned the volume up, and there it was again, a deep, guttural moan carried by the wind. The unmistakable cry of an elephant. But not a normal call. This one was desperate, choked. He leaned out the window, heart thudding. In the dim pre-dawn light, he could see the faint flicker of headlights, moving where no road should be. "Poachers," he whispered. By the time the sun's first orange glow bled across the sky, the storm had closed in. Lightning danced on the horizon. Eli grabbed the radio. "Base, this is Tower 1. We've got movement near the northern marsh. Unauthorized vehicle. Possible distress call from a bull elephant." "Over." Static answered. Then a faint voice. "Copy that, Tower 1. Proceed with caution. We're tracking your signal." Eli slung his rifle over his shoulder and raced down the tower steps. Moses met him halfway, already in the driver's seat. "You heard it too?" "Loud and clear," Eli said, jumping in. "Let's move before they vanish." The truck roared to life, headlights cutting through sheets of rain as they sped across the mud-slicked trail. As they drove, lightning flashed again, illuminating herds of wildebeest running toward higher ground. The storm wind whipped through open windows, carrying the scent of fear and electricity. "Do you think it's poachers?" Ion shouted over the engine. "It's always poachers when it rains," Eli said. "They know the patrol drones can't fly in lightning." The tires slipped, caught, then jolted hard as the truck hit a rut. Water splashed against the windshield. For miles, nothing but the rhythmic slap of wipers and the rising heartbeat of the storm. Then, another sound. A single gunshot. Distant, muffled by rain, but sharp enough to cut through the noise. Eli's jaw tightened. "That's confirmation," he said. "Weapons fire near the marsh." He grabbed the radio again. "Base, shots fired. We're proceeding on foot from the ridge. Send backup if comms fail." No response, just static. They reached the ridge 20 minutes later. Below them lay the flooded marshland, a mosaic of brown water and broken reeds. In the middle of it stood a shape that made Eli's breath catch. An elephant. Huge. Gray. Half sunk in the mud. A chain glinted around one leg. Steel. Tight. Cutting into the flesh. Blood mixed with rainwater pooling beneath it. And near the elephant's flank, silhouettes moved. Men with rifles, pulling ropes, shouting over the storm. Eli whispered, "They're trying to drag her down." "They'll kill her for the tusks," Moses said. "Not if we reach her first." Eli's voice was calm, but his heart was hammering. He'd seen this scene too many times. Greed against innocence, noise against peace. He checked his tranquilizer rifle, loaded 2 darts, and nodded to the others. "We move on my mark." Lightning split the sky. For a heartbeat, everything turned white. The elephant trumpeted in pain. And in that blinding flash, Eli saw the poachers clearly. 3 men, drenched, desperate, determined. The oldest one, a scarred man in a red raincoat, shouted something and raised his gun. Eli whispered, "Now." They sprinted from the ridge, sliding through mud, water splashing up to their knees. Thunder roared like artillery. The elephant's cry echoed across the plain. By the time the poachers spotted them, it was too late. A dart hissed through the rain, striking the first man's arm. He stumbled back, shouting, "Rangers! Scatter!" 2 others bolted toward the jeep. Eli ducked behind a fallen tree, reloading as lightning flashed again. The elephant lurched, trunk flailing, eyes wide with terror. Her breathing was ragged, heavy, every exhale a plea. Moses crouched beside Eli. "We can't get close. She's sinking too fast." "We'll figure it out," Eli said. "We always do." Behind them, a tree cracked and fell under the wind, sending a shower of rain and dust. The sky split open, rain hammering the earth. And in that chaos, between thunder and cries, something powerful stirred in Eli's chest. This wasn't just another rescue. This was a promise. He looked back at the trapped elephant, mud up to her belly, trunk trembling as she tried to breathe. Each second mattered now. One wrong step and she'd vanish beneath the muck. He turned to his team. "Secure a line. We're not leaving her." Moses nodded. Ion grabbed the tow cable. The truck's engine roared again, tires spinning as it reversed into position. Lightning flashed once more, the Savanna glowing like molten gold. And as the rain fell harder, Eli whispered the words that would carry through the rest of this story. "No creature deserves to die in chains." He raised his rifle, aimed for the nearest poacher still standing, and fired. The dart flew true. The man fell into the mud, motionless. And in that instant, the storm swallowed everything else. The rain didn't let up. It only grew heavier, thick sheets of water falling so fast that the world blurred into shades of gray and lightning white. Eli crouched behind the broken log, mud streaking his uniform, his hands shaking from cold and adrenaline. The elephant's cries still echoed, deep, guttural, primal. He pressed his radio again. "Tower base, this is Unit Bravo. We've engaged poachers near Sector 9. The elephant is alive but sinking. We need air support and rescue winches now." "Over." Static. Then, nothing. The storm had drowned the signal. Eli slammed the radio against his knee, rain dripping from his chin. "Come on," he shouted, as if yelling at the sky would help. Moses crawled closer, panting. "No contact. None. We're on our own until the lightning eases." Ion loaded another tranquilizer dart. The last poacher ran toward the ridge, probably calling for backup. Eli nodded grimly. Then we moved faster. They waded forward through waist-deep mud. The closer they got, the louder the storm seemed to rage, like the earth itself was warning them back. The elephant's massive form loomed ahead, her trunk barely lifting above the flood. Her leg chain had wrapped around a buried log, anchoring her in place like a cruel trap. Eli's flashlight beams swept over her, torn skin, trembling muscles, eyes wide and glassy with pain. Moses exhaled shakily. "She's just a juvenile, maybe 15 years. Too young to have gone through this." Eli swallowed hard. They would have taken her tusks, left her to drown. The thought burned like fire in his chest. "We cut that chain, we get her free, and we bring her home," he said. "Storm or not." Ion looked up at the lightning-split sky. "Let's pray the winch holds." They dragged the steel cable through the mud, looping it around the fallen log near her trapped leg. Each second was a battle, rain blinding them, mud sucking at their boots, the roar of thunder shaking the air. The elephant groaned, a sound that made Eli freeze. It wasn't fear anymore. It was exhausting. She was giving up. "Hey," Eli shouted above the wind, waving his arms. "Hey, stay with me, girl. You hear me? You've got to fight." He moved closer, ignoring the sinking ground beneath his boots. He could see the whites of her eyes now, rolling in panic and pain. She reached her trunk toward him weakly. For a second, man and animal met in silence. And in that silence, something passed between them, not words, but understanding. She wasn't just another rescue case. She was a heartbeat in a dying storm. "Hook it up," Eli yelled. Moses latched the cable to the truck's winch. The engine roared, tires spinning in the mud, headlights cutting through the rain. The chain tightened, metal screaming under tension. The log shifted slightly. "It's moving," Ion shouted. But then, a gunshot cracked from the ridge. A bullet struck the dirt inches from the truck's tire. "Sniper!" Moses yelled, diving for cover. Eli cursed, crawling to the rear of the truck. They brought backup. He peeked over the hood, two figures silhouetted against a flash of lightning, rifles glinting. "They're not letting her go," Ion said through gritted teeth. "Then we make them," Eli snapped. He grabbed the tranquilizer rifle, took a deep breath, and waited for the next flash of lightning to light the field. There. A clean shot. He fired. The dart hit one poacher square in the chest. The man stumbled back, arms flailing, and fell out of sight. The second man ducked, fired back. The bullet ricocheted off the truck's door. "We need that line clear," Moses yelled. Eli exhaled slowly, then aimed again. This time he didn't miss. The man dropped, rifle slipping from his hands. Silence. Only the rain remained. "Ion, go check." Ion sprinted up the ridge, scanning the area, then signaled back. "Both down. We're clear." Eli turned back to the elephant. She was sinking deeper now, chest nearly under the surface, trunk flailing for air. "No, no, no," Eli shouted. "Reverse the truck now." The engine roared again. The winch screamed, cable groaning, tires spinning mud. The log shifted another inch, then another. Chains rattled, then snapped free with a deafening metallic crack. The elephant lurched forward, nearly falling. Moses shouted, "She's loose. Pull her out." Eli motioned to Ion, who ran to the front of the truck and waved. Slowly, painfully, the massive creature began to move, 1 foot at a time, dragging herself out of the mire. Each step left a crater in the mud, each breath a victory. But the storm wasn't done yet. Lightning hit a nearby tree, the explosion blinding. The shockwave threw mud and water into the air. The elephant trumpeted in fear, stumbling sideways. The ground beneath her cracked, a hidden sinkhole beginning to give way. Eli's instincts screamed, "Cut the line. Move her left." Moses ran to unhook the cable, but the winch jammed, grinding against the tension. "It stuck. Then we do it by hand," Eli said, diving forward. The mud swallowed him up to his thighs as he reached the chain, fingers numb, muscles burning. He yanked the pin loose. Pain shot through his arms, but the latch gave way. The cable whipped free with a violent snap. The elephant stumbled again, then found her footing, shifting toward higher ground. Eli dragged himself out of the mud, gasping for breath. When he looked up, she was standing tall again. Her ears flared, trunk raised high against the rain, letting out a thunderous trumpet that echoed through the storm. For the first time, it wasn't a cry of pain. It was defiance. They stood there, 3 drenched rangers and a rescued giant, breathing hard, rain streaming down their faces. Eli wiped his eyes and laughed, chest heaving. "We did it." But then, from far off, another sound. Engines. Headlights cutting through the darkness. A convoy of jeeps coming fast. Moses turned, face pale. "That's not a backup. That's the poachers." Eli's smile faded. Round 2. He loaded his last dart and whispered to himself, "Let's finish what we started." Thunder boomed again as the camera would cut to black, the sound of the elephant's roar blending with the storm. The jungle trembled before the storm and the sound of approaching engines. Through sheets of rain, headlights tore across the field. 5 jeeps, armed men shouting over the thunder. Their voices echoed off the hills, distorted by the storm. Eli's team took cover behind the rescue truck. The elephant stood just ahead, trembling, exhausted, still half covered in mud. Her ears flicked, sensing danger before the men even appeared. Ion, panting, "They're coming in fast." Eli, "No more running. We hold the line." He reached into the truck bed and pulled out a flare gun, his last one. The rain hissed against the metal. "Moses, you think that'll stop them?" Eli, "No, but it'll make them think twice." He raised the flare high and fired. A streak of red light shot into the night, bursting into a fiery bloom that illuminated everything. The drenched jungle, the terrified elephant, and the black silhouettes of poachers closing in. For a moment, time froze. Then chaos erupted. Bullets ripped through the rain, sparks flying as they hit the truck's metal sides. Moses ducked. "They're shooting blind." Eli shouted over the storm. "Ion, Move her into the trees. Go. Ion waved his arms, calling out softly, trying to calm the panicked elephant. She hesitated, trunk flailing. Eli turned back and fired a warning shot into the air. The flare's dying glow lit his face, determined, unyielding. Eli, shouting, "You want her? Come through me first." The leader of the poachers stepped out, a scarred man with a rifle slung over his shoulder, rain dripping from his hat. He grinned. "You think this is your jungle, Ranger?" Eli didn't blink. "No, it's hers." Lightning split the sky behind them, a blinding white flash that framed the standoff like a scene from a war film. The elephant trumpeted, her cry cutting through the rain like a battle horn. The poachers fired again, their bullets whizzing past, hitting the ground near her feet. Ion shouted, "She's panicking. We'll lose her if this keeps up." Eli, "Then we make them stop." He slammed the truck into gear, spun the wheel, and floored it. The tires tore through the mud, headlights blazing as he rammed the vehicle straight into the lead jeep. Metal screamed against metal. Sparks flew. The poachers scattered. Ion waved wildly at the elephant. "Come on, move." She stumbled, then followed, slow at first, then faster, crashing through branches as if guided by instinct. Eli climbed out of the wrecked truck, mud splattered across his face. One of the poachers lunged at him with a machete. He blocked the swing with his forearm, pain searing up his wrist, and countered with a punch that sent the man sprawling into the mud. Another came at him from behind, rifle raised, but Moses tackled him, both rolling down into the ditch. Lightning struck a nearby tree, splitting it in half. The trunk crashed between the fighters, flames hissing as rain hit the wood. For a moment, the entire scene glowed orange and blue, nature's fury lighting the battlefield. Ion, on radio, "Eli. She's breaking through the ridge. But she's bleeding bad. Leg wound reopened." "Eli, keep pressure on it. Don't let her fall." He turned just in time to see another jeep racing toward the elephant. A poacher leaned out the side, aiming a tranquilizer rifle. Eli grabbed his own weapon, slid across the hood of the truck, and fired. The dart hit the jeep's tire. It exploded in a burst of air. The vehicle spun, flipped sideways, and slammed into a tree. "Moses, that's 3 down." But Eli wasn't smiling. He looked toward the ridge, where the elephant now struggled to climb, her massive frame trembling, mud sliding under her feet. Behind her, another figure appeared, the same poacher leader, rifle aimed at her flank. "Eli, not today." He ran, boots slamming into the mud, rain pelting his face. He didn't stop when the ground dropped into a shallow ravine. He just dove, sliding, tumbling, hitting the earth hard. Pain shot through his ribs, but he kept going. The leader turned, surprised, but Eli tackled him before he could fire. The rifle flew into the air, landing somewhere in the grass. They wrestled, slipping in the mud, fists flying. "Leader, you can't save them all." "Eli, I can save this one." He shoved the man face first into the mud, yanked off his belt, and used it to tie his wrists. When he looked up, the elephant had reached the top of the ridge. She paused there, framed against the storm, trunk raised high in triumph. And for a single breathtaking moment, the thunder quieted. The rain eased. The storm itself seemed to bow to her strength. Moses and Ion climbed up beside Eli. They were bruised, bleeding, soaked to the bone, but alive. "Moses, she made it." "Eli, yes, she did." The elephant turned one last time, eyes meeting Eli's through the mist. Her gaze held gratitude, quiet, knowing, almost human. Then she disappeared into the jungle, her footsteps fading into the rain. Eli lowered his head, exhaustion washing over him. He whispered, "Safe now." But the jungle wasn't silent for long. In the distance, faint sirens, growing louder. "Ion, backup's finally here." "Eli, too late for the storm, but right on time for the cleanup." He looked up at the ridge one last time, at the path she took, and smiled. "Eli, run free, girl." The camera pans up, following the elephant's silhouette moving through mist, a giant shadow against the breaking dawn. The sun finally pierces the storm clouds, painting the jungle gold. Music swells, triumphant, emotional, cinematic. The rain had finally stopped by dawn. The jungle smelled of wet earth and smoke, the kind that lingers after lightning scorches the ground. For the first time in hours, silence blanketed the land. No gunfire, no shouting, just wind whispering through acacia leaves. Eli sat on the back of the rescue truck, blood drying on his sleeve. His hands trembled as he stared at the horizon, a pale line of gold slicing through the gray clouds. It didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Beside him, Moses poured water from a canteen over a fresh cut on his arm. "Hurts like hell," he muttered, wincing. "But at least we're still breathing." "Eli," she made it out. "Moses?" "Yeah, you made sure of that." Eli didn't reply. He was still listening, still waiting, for the faint rumble of her footsteps. But the forest had swallowed her whole. Ion approached from the tree lean, holding a shredded piece of netting in his hands, the same one that had trapped the elephant. He tossed it onto the mud. They use this stuff everywhere now. Easy to hide, hard to break. He looked at Eli. "She'll have scars, but she'll live." Eli nodded, jaw tight. "That's enough for me." The distant hum of engines grew louder. Backup had finally arrived. 2 wildlife trucks rolled into the clearing, headlights piercing through the mist. A group of armed rangers jumped out, fanning across the field. The captain, a tall woman named Batha, strode toward them, boots sinking into the mud. She glanced at the wrecked vehicles, the tied-up poachers, the scattered rifles. "Nia, what the hell happened here?" "Moses, storm happened, and bad men met worse luck." She gave him a look that was equal parts disbelief and admiration. Then her eyes landed on Eli. "You called in a distress signal, then radio silence for 3 hours. We thought you were gone." Eli almost was. He nodded toward the ridge. The elephant was trapped. Poachers were using her as bait. Her expression hardened. "Bait?" "Ion. They were waiting for a herd. She must have gotten stuck during the flood. They chained her down, used her distress call to lure the others." Nia's hands clenched into fists. "Disgusting," she said. "They'll face full prosecution for this. I'll make sure of it." The poacher leader, still on his knees nearby, spat mud and glared up at her. "You think locking us up changes anything? There'll be more. There's always more." Eli walked over, crouched down, and met his gaze. "Eli, then we'll stop more." The man laughed, a bitter, hollow sound, before Nia signaled for her rangers to drag him away. As the prisoners were loaded into trucks, the first sunlight broke fully through the clouds. It hit the soaked grass, turning the field into a shimmer of green and gold. Eli tilted his head back, eyes closed, letting the warmth touch his face. "Ion, you ever wonder why you still do this?" "Eli, every single day." He looked toward the ridge again. Then I remember her eyes. Ion followed his gaze. "You mean the elephants?" "Eli, yeah. When she looked at me, it wasn't fear. It was trust." Moses chuckled under his breath. "Trust from a 5-ton beast. You're either blessed or insane, brother." Eli smiled faintly. "Maybe both." Hours later, the scene had cleared. The wrecked jeeps were hauled away, the ground littered with evidence bags and footprints. But Eli stayed behind. He wandered to the spot where the elephant had been chained, the mud still marked with deep prints, each one filled with rainwater. He crouched down, touching the grooves. "Eli, you're free now." A soft rumble rolled through the trees in the distance. It was faint, but unmistakable, the low, resonant call of an elephant. A smile tugged at his lips. "She's still close." Nia joined him quietly, folding her arms. "You did good today, Eli." "Eli, did we?" "Nia, you saved a life. That's more than most do in a lifetime." He nodded, but didn't move. His eyes stayed on the horizon, where the savanna stretched endlessly. "Eli, you ever think about what happens after we're gone? Who protects them then?" Nia didn't answer immediately. The wind brushed past, carrying the scent of wet acacia and grass. "Finally," she said, "maybe the ones we save today grow up to protect the next." Eli smiled faintly. "Then maybe there's hope after all." As the rescue trucks rumbled away, Eli stood alone for a moment longer. He took one last look at the ridge, now glowing under the midday sun, and saw a silhouette moving slowly through the mist. The elephant. Safe. Walking free. A small bird perched on her back, wings fluttering in the light breeze. Eli's breath caught. He raised his hand, a silent salute. And though she was too far to hear, she lifted her trunk in return. A silent goodbye. A promise kept. The camera slowly pulled back, from Eli, from the ridge, from the entire golden plain stretching beneath the endless sky. In the background, a narrator's voice, calm, steady, filled with meaning. In a world where greed hunts beauty, we don't fight for glory. We fight for what cannot speak. We fight so the wild can still breathe. The music swells, orchestral, emotional. Fade to black. 6 months later, the savanna had healed. The rains had passed, and the grass stretched tall again, shimmering like gold under the afternoon sun. Birds circled lazily overhead, and in the distance, the low rumble of elephants rolled across the plains like thunder that had forgotten how to be angry. Eli leaned against his jeep, camera in hand. He wasn't in uniform anymore. No badge, no rifle. Just a plain khaki shirt and a soft look in his eyes. He had come alone this time. In the distance, under the same ridge where it all began, a small herd of elephants was crossing the open field. At the center walked a familiar shape, larger, slower, but stronger now. The same female elephant he'd saved from the poachers. The same eyes that had looked into his that night in the storm. Eli, you made it, girl. He raised the camera and snapped a photo, the shutter clicking softly, like a heartbeat. Through the lens, he could see her trunk lifted high, ears flapping gently. And then, beside her, a smaller figure emerged, a calf. Eli lowered the camera slowly. His breath caught. Eli, you had a baby. The calf stumbled, almost tripping over its own feet, before the mother nudged it forward gently. They walked together, two silhouettes in the golden light. New life. Proof that even in the wild, mercy leaves a mark. A jeep rolled up behind him, crunching over dry earth. It was Nia. Nia, you couldn't stay away, could you? Eli didn't plan to, but the savanna has a way of calling you back. She looked toward the herd. They found safety with the northern migration. No more traps. No more raids. Eli nodded, still watching the calf play under its mother's belly. Eli, she trusts again. That's rare. Nia, you gave her a reason to. They stood in silence for a while. The wind rustled through the grass. A flock of birds scattered in a burst of white and gray. Then Nia turned to him. We're expanding the sanctuary next month. 20 new square miles of protected land. The government finally approved it. Eli smiled faintly. Guess that means you'll need someone to keep the gates open. Are you saying you're coming back? I never really left. The radio crackled in Nia's jeep. A voice came through, one of the new recruits. Ma'am, we've got movement near the eastern fence. Could be another herd. Nia picked up the receiver. Copy that. Stay clear and observe. No engines, no noise. Then she looked at Eli. Want to join me? He smiled. Wouldn't miss it. As the two climbed into the jeep, the camera followed the herd, the mother and her calf framed against the fading sun. Every step they took left small clouds of dust that glittered like fireflies in the orange light. The scene cuts to dusk. The sky blazed with pink and gold, the savanna painted in molten hues. A drone shot panned wide, elephants marching in slow rhythm, humans watching from afar, the world momentarily at peace. Eli's voice returned, soft and reflective, narration layered over the images like poetry. People think the wild is chaos, untamed, merciless. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's balance, nature's way of reminding us that every life, big or small, matters. The question isn't who the jungle belongs to. It's whether we deserve to belong in it. The camera cuts to close-ups, the elephant's eye reflecting the sunset, a ranger's hand releasing a rescued bird into the air, a sapling swaying gently in the breeze. We fight poachers. We rebuild land. But the truth is, we're just visitors here. The real guardians are the ones who never leave, the ones who listen to the earth's heartbeat and follow it home. Night fell. The stars bloomed across the African sky, infinite and bright. The sound of crickets and distant elephant calls filled the air, a lullaby of the wild. Eli and Nia set up a small camp near the ridge. A campfire flickered between them, sparks drifting upward like memories rising into the dark. Do you ever think your father would be proud? I think he'd tell me to keep my boots dry and my heart open. He smiled. That was his way of saying yes. She laughed softly, the firelight dancing across her face. Then they both looked up, at the stars, at the endless sky, at the faint outline of elephants moving through the dark below. Funny thing about legacy. It's not what you leave behind. It's what still breathes because you cared. He tossed another log onto the fire. Sparks flew up, glowing like embers of hope.